Chapter 2011. Jing Yu stared blankly at the scholarly man. Can you imagine what this scholarly man looks like when he says such a bandit's words? Hubby, someone wants to snatch me away to be the wife of a bandit. What should we do? Jing Yu remained silent for a moment. She blinked her eyes in confusion and turned to ask Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's face stiffened. Kill them. After he said this sentence expressionlessly, Zhuorong, who was sitting on the horse, widened his eyes in shock. He probably didn't expect Jing Yu to be married and that her husband was right beside her. So, you're already married? Zhuorong rubbed his chin in disappointment. Then, as if he thought of something, he looked at Jing Yu with interest and said, It's okay even if you're married. Little beauty, if you're willing to be with me, I guarantee that you'll live a good life. Jing Yu? What should she do? She really wanted to sew his mouth shut. Zhuorong, this is the person I've taken a fancy to. Before Jing Yu and Xiao Chen could react, Boss Lei shouted angrily. Jing Yu's gaze wandered between the two parties. So they were rivals. This was getting more interesting. Jing Yu raised her eyebrows and looked at Zhuorong with a serious expression. Everyone has a share. Boss Lei, isn't it too unreasonable for you to monopolize her? Why don't you give the man to you and the woman to me? Zhuorong thought for a moment and said seriously. Go to hell. What do I want these useless men for? Boss Lei was instantly enraged. His words almost made Jing Yu spit. Useless men. Jing Yu silently turned to look at Xiao Chen. She successfully saw the murderous look on Xiao Chen's handsome face. Don't talk nonsense. Jing Yu coughed silently. She raised her hand and took down the bough behind her. She turned to look at the two parties on her left and right. It seemed like they were all coming at her. It was a little difficult. Why not just kill one party? Husband, which side do you think it's better to send them on their way? Jing Yu frowned slightly and turned her head to ask seriously. Kill them all. Xiao Chen's entire body was emitting a cold aura. Jing Yu silently swallowed her saliva. Jing Yu looked at the two parties. There were at least a few hundred people. How could they win? Isn't that too cruel? Jing Yu seemed to be in a dilemma. Which side should she choose? Zhuorong and Boss Lei looked at Jing Yu and Xiao Chen talking so impolitely. They were really looking down on them. Such arrogance was really unbearable. Boss Lei, why don't we work together? Zhuorong rolled her eyes and looked up at Boss Lei. What a joke. Do I need to work with you to deal with these people? Boss Lei said with disdain. Don't you just want a piece of the pie? Let me tell you, don't even think about it. Get lost. TSK. Zhuorong was not angry. Instead, she seemed to be very happy. She actually waved her hand and retreated to the side. She looked like she was not going to interfere. This made Jing Yu and the rest frown suspiciously. This person was really interesting. Boss, are we really not going to interfere? The people besides Zhuorong frowned strangely. Chapter 2012. How could it be fake? Zhuorong rubbed his chin and looked at Jing Yu, Xiao Chen and the rest calmly. He knew that these people were not simple people. In this place, it was hard to believe that someone who could come from that direction would not be able to come here if they did not have any ability. Furthermore, he had not seen a living person coming from this direction for more than 10 years. After Zhuorong stepped back, Jing Yu frowned slightly. Looking at this person, was he really not going to interfere? It would be best if he did not shoot them in the back. Jing Yu was not sure if bandits were unreasonable. Jing Yu blinked and turned to look at Xiao Chen. She asked seriously, someone sent himself to be killed. Xiao Chen, do you think we should kill him or not? What do you think? Xiao Chen looked at Jing Yu calmly. His eyes were cold and his eyebrows made Jing Yu laugh. Go, snatch the woman and kill the man. Boss Lei's eyes were filled with greed as he looked at Jing Yu. With a wave of his hand, his lackeys charged forward. When Jing Yu saw this scene, her lips curled up in delight. All right, let's start a massacre then. The longbow in Jing Yu's hand shot out arrows without hesitation. She stood still. The cold swords of Xiao Chen and the others were like scythes that reaped lives. They cut people down as if they were cutting vegetables. Zhuorong, who was watching from the side, saw Jingyu, Xiao Chen, and the others act like this. Her eyes widened slightly, and her originally indifferent figure straightened up a little. Jingyu had been attacking from afar. Boss Lei thought that it would be easy to take down these people. However, he did not expect that Jingyu and the rest had some skills. His face turned pale and he waved his hand to signal the archers to shoot. Fortunately, he had brought enough people. Otherwise, he would not have been able to take them down. A sharp arrow suddenly shot towards Jingyu, stopping her from shooting. Jingyu tightened her grip on the longbow in her hand. The sharp blade ejected from the longbow made Zhuorong, who was watching the battle from afar, even more surprised. However, Zhuorong did not expect Jingyu's performance. She was so shocked that she almost dropped the things in her hands. After Jingyu gave up shooting arrows and changed to attacking, not only did she not feel uncomfortable at all, she was still like a fish in water. Her moves were really without any pause, and every move was fatal. This made Zhuorong suck in a breath of cold air. Among them, Jingyu and Qinggu did not have any internal energy. Zhuorong did not expect that Jingyu could do this even without any internal energy. It was simply unimaginable. Damn it! Bring me my broadsword. Boss Lei was also provoked. He decided to take the field himself. He waved the broadsword in his hand fiercely. When he wanted to attack Jingyu, he was blocked by Xiao Chen coldly. This king wants your life. Xiao Chen's dark eyes flashed with a strong murderous intent. Even Boss Lei did not hear what Xiao Chen said clearly. Xiao Chen's longsword was already attacking Boss Lei. Previously, Xiao Chen did not seem to have any strong attacking power. However, looking at Xiao Chen's unreserved attacks now, it was as if he had been waiting for Boss Lei to take action. Chapter 2013. Jingyu's lips curled up in delight. Her eyes were calm. When she turned around to face the enemy, she saw someone attacking Qinggu. Qinggu was shocked. As he retreated, Jingyu threw the bow in her hand without hesitation. Stabbing the sharp blade into that person's chest, Qinggu turned to look at Jingyu. Jingyu smiled casually. Zhuorong saw that Jingyu's weapon was gone. Just as she was wondering what Jingyu would do next, she didn't expect Jingyu to be even more vicious after losing her weapon. Her body suddenly spun. Zhuorong didn't even see what weapon Jingyu was using. She saw the heads of those people fall to the ground. Jingyu seemed to be shocked too. Looking at the three people whose heads fell to the ground, she silently looked down at her hand. The wild silk in her hand was able to kill people without staining it with blood. It's really useful. Jingyu sighed silently. She turned to look at Xiao Chen. Boss Lei was being completely abused by Xiao Chen. Finally, with a kick from Xiao Chen, Boss Lei flew out and landed heavily on the ground. The surroundings fell into a strange silence. Jingyu casually grabbed the person she was controlling. She suddenly moved her hand and expressionlessly retracted the silk. That person's head also rolled to the side. Only then did Zhuorong see the silk in Jingyu's hand. She instantly broke out in a cold sweat. What kind of silk was this? It actually had such skills. Still want to fight? Jingyu had just warmed up. Seeing that this thing was so useful, Jingyu wanted to kill a few more people. Xing-san. Xiao Chen coldly kept the long sword in his hand. He turned around and said, "Do you know what to do?" Xing-san heard Xiao Chen's call and looked at Boss Lei, who was sent flying. He respectfully bowed his head and then walked towards Boss Lei. Xing-15 sighed silently at the side. Why did they always have to do such torturous things? Who asked Master to be so lazy to do it? What are you trying to do? Boss Lei clutched his chest. That kick had caused him to be unable to catch his breath. When he raised his head and saw Third Xing, his eyes were instantly filled with fear. Third Xing looked at Boss Lei and the others from head to toe. Without saying a word, he raised his hand and chopped off all the limbs of this person. An incomparably shrill cry of agony rang out, startling the birds in the area and causing them to fly away. And, "How cruel," Xiao Chen said quietly. Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes. He reached out and grabbed Jingyu's chin and said, "If I'm cruel, then what about you?" After Xiao Chen said this, he looked at the headless corpses on the ground. Jingyu chuckled. She reached out and hugged Xiao Chen's arm. She turned around and looked at the stunned people around her. She said kindly, "You didn't answer me just now. Do you still want to fight? Didn't you want to catch me?" Jing Yu blinked her eyes happily as if she was saying, "Come and catch me." When the people heard Jing Yu's words and looked at the corpses on the ground, they hurriedly threw away the weapons in their hands. They knelt on the ground and cried, "Heroes, please spare us. We won't dare to do it again." Chapter 2014. The boss was already dead. Who would continue? Now they were begging for mercy. Jing Yu looked at these people and nodded in satisfaction. Then she turned and walked to the other side. Zhuorong and the rest were completely stunned when they saw this scene. It had only been a few minutes and the place was already in a mess. The person that Boss Lei wanted to capture was still standing at the same spot, unharmed. However, the rest of the people were all lying on the ground. Third Xing was also here. He wiped the long sword in his hand and walked over slowly. No one dared to look at Boss Lei's corpse. There was not a single piece of unharmed flesh on his body. He couldn't be more dead. This was the price for offending Madam. Zhuorong clenched his fists and his face turned pale. Originally, if these two parties were to fight together, Jing Yu and the rest wouldn't have the confidence to win. However, Boss Lei's party was already dead. Only Zhuorong's party was left. "Have you had your fill?" Jing Yu turned her head and looked at Zhuorong. She smiled and said, "Now, you still want me to be your mistress?" Ha! Zhuorong's expression changed slightly. Then, he laughed heartily and jumped off his horse. He bowed slightly to Jing Yu and Xiao Chen and said, "Madam, you must be joking. Just now, I spoke without thinking." Zhuorong really wanted to slap himself. If he really invited this woman to his mountain stronghold, wouldn't he be massacred? "Is that so?" Jing Yu seemed to be confused. She blinked her eyes and said, "I clearly heard, you ask me if I want to go back to the mountain stronghold with you." Absolutely not." Zhuorong refused without even thinking about it. "Ayaya, but I want to go back with you now. What should I do?" Jing Yu smiled at Zhuorong and said, "Hubby, what do you think the mountain stronghold looks like? How about we go and take a look?" Xiao Chen was speechless. Although he really wanted to refuse, when he heard Jing Yu call him husband, and looked at Jing Yu's coquettish expression, he silently nodded his head. "Great. Let's go take a look." Jing Yu smiled and turned to look at Zhuorong. "This, bandit leader, please lead the way." Jing Yu's matter-of-fact expression made Zhuorong's mouth twitch. She suddenly despised her own mouth. "Don't tell me, you're unwilling?" Jing Yu looked at Zhuorong and narrowed her eyes. She slowly touched her wrist. Zhuorong looked at Jing Yu. He remembered that Jing Yu's killing thread was on her wrist. Zhuorong looked at the corpses not far away and finally said through gritted teeth, "Why wouldn't I welcome you? Of course, I welcome you." Zhuorong looked very happy. He beckoned everyone to lead the way. He simply treated Jing Yu and Xiao Chen as VIPs. Then, this dignified bandit leader led the horse up the mountain. Along the way, he was very talkative. He helped Jing Yu and Xiao Chen introduce this and that. His eagerness made it impossible for Jing Yu to find a good excuse to kill him. When they reached the entrance of the mountain stronghold, Jing Yu looked at the mountain stronghold that was located halfway up the mountain. Her eyes revealed a look of surprise. She didn't know why, but she suddenly thought of Mu Guing. The mountain stronghold that she saw on television was no different from this one. Chapter 2015. So this is a mountain stronghold. Jing Yu squinted her eyes and looked at Xiao Chen. "Husband, why don't we find a place like this in the future and be the overlords of the mountains?" Xiao Chen was speechless. "Ninth sister, can't you have some backbone?" Qing Gu stared at the shabby mountain stronghold in disdain and said, "No matter what, it should be built prettily. Otherwise, how can we live up to the name of the overlords of the mountains?" Right. I think so too." Jing Yu was excited when she heard Qing Ji's reply. Everyone was speechless. Why do I feel like she's crazy? Why would she want to be a bandit instead of being the 9th imperial concubine? "We're here." Zhuarong waved her hand and ordered her subordinates to prepare the best wine and delicacies. Then she invited Jingyu and Xiao Qin in respectfully. The people who were guarding the house thought that their boss had returned with a full load. But they didn't expect that. There was something wrong with the way they came in. Why did their boss welcome someone in like that? Who are these people? But they didn't even have a chance to speak before they were called to prepare food. Jingyu looked around curiously. Then she turned to Zhuarong and said, "Are there a lot of merchants here? You have so many things?" "Not a lot." Zhuarong said awkwardly, "Most people take another route. It seems like this is your first time here?" "Another route?" Jingyu touched her chin and turned to look at Yan Chenyang. Yan Chenyang lowered his head silently, as if he didn't know anything. "Heroes, you were able to cross the swamp and escape from the swamp crocodiles. You're really amazing." Zhuarong's adjectives made Jingyu quickly raise her hand to stop them. She looked at Zhuarong with a strange expression and said, "You know quite a lot." "Huh? Please take a seat." Zhuarong casually said a few words. Her shameless appearance really made people speechless. "May I know where you are heading to? Miaojiang?" Zhuarong thought for a moment and asked. "We've already come all the way here. Where else can we go if not to Miaojiang?" Jingyu glanced at Zhuarong from the corner of her eyes. She lowered her eyes and said calmly, "We're just there to collect debts." "Yes, yes, yes." Zhuarong nodded repeatedly. She asked her trusted subordinate to wait here and turned around to ask when the food and wine would be served. Jingyu didn't say much and just waited quietly. Inside, Jingyu and Xiao Qin were waiting. After Zhuarong went out, he quickly called his subordinate. The subordinate said seriously, "Boss, the medicine is in. Quick, 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 go and get someone to throw away the food that was drugged." Zhuarong said quickly. "Ah." The subordinate suddenly widened his eyes and looked surprised. "These people aren't ordinary people. Don't ask so much. Go and do it." Zhuarong said anxiously, "Open your eyes. Don't do anything. Just send these ancestors out quietly. Do you understand?" "Yes, I understand." Although this person had a face of doubt, the boss had already spoken. Of course, he had to do it. He responded immediately and turned to go into the house. Chapter 2016. Zhuarong came back and he didn't seem to have changed at all. He warmly greeted Jingyu and Xiao Qin to sit down. When the dishes were served, he even accompanied Jingyu and Xiao Qin to drink. Jingyu originally thought that this person would definitely do something, but she didn't expect that he didn't do anything at all. Jingyu was very suspicious. Was this man so easy to talk to? The sky is already dark. Why don't you all rest in the stockade? Tomorrow I will personally send you to Miaojiang. After eating and drinking, Zhuarong put down the wine cup in his hand and said to Xiao Qin and Jingyu, "Thank you very much, young Master Zhua." Originally, Jingyu thought that if Zhuarong made a move on them, Jingyu would definitely not hesitate to kill him. But during the whole process, Zhuarong actually remained silent. His respectful attitude really made Jingyu suspicious. Could it be that Xiao Qin secretly did something? But looking at Xiao Qin's indifferent expression, she felt that it was impossible. After all, they had always been together. After eating and drinking, they went outside for a stroll. The air in the mountains was really good. Jingyu nodded with satisfaction and slowly walked outside. Zhuarong looked at Jingyu and Xiao Qin from afar and sighed deeply. "Boss." The subordinate finally seized the opportunity to talk to his boss. He quickly came over and asked, "Boss, why didn't you make a move on these people? If we make a move, we might not lose." That person looked at his boss in confusion and asked, "That's what I thought before, but after I saw something, I gave up on the idea." Zhuarong sighed deeply and said. The man beside him suddenly frowned and asked, "What is it?" "The jade pendant on that man's waist." Zhuarong slightly narrowed his eyes and pointed at Xiao Qin. "Jade pendant? What jade pendant?" The person beside him was slightly taken aback and asked curiously. "When I dismounted, he dropped his jade pendant. When he picked it up, there was a Xiao character on the jade pendant." Zhuarong narrowed her eyes and said, "And it's a Tokyo totem. Who do you think has this jade pendant?" "Tokyo?" The man beside him opened his eyes wide as if he had guessed something. There was a look of surprise in his eyes as he asked cautiously, "Boss, could it be that these people are from the Tokyo imperial family?" "I don't know." Zhuorong shook her head slightly. Along the way, she had heard the man without any inner strength call Chingu. He kept calling that person ninth brother and ninth sister-in-law. Jingyu and Xiaochen did not tell Zhuorong their names. Zhuorong also called Xiaochen Master 9 and Jingyu Madam 9. The number 9 was very ordinary, but if it was tainted with the word Xiao, it would be tainted with the country of the Tokyo. It was hard not to take it seriously. In the Tokyo imperial family, those who could bear the number 9 were from the imperial family. This made Zhuorong easily think of the 9th emperors. The 9th emperors of the Tokyo imperial family, Xiaochen. How could Zhuorong not know this person? The deeds of the 9th emperors and the 9th imperial concubine had spread throughout the continent. It was only after the death of the 9th imperial concubine a year ago that this news gradually faded. However, people would never forget these two legendary figures. Chapter 2017. After that, the 9th royal uncle disappeared without a trace. It had been a year. Now that these people had appeared in front of Zhuorong, he really did not dare to not think about it. However, what made Zhuorong extremely confused was that the 9th emperors and the 9th imperial concubine were deeply in love. Since the 9th imperial concubine was dead, how could the 9th emperors be together with another woman? Back then, the 9th emperors had gone to great lengths for the 9th imperial concubine. Everyone in the world had seen it for themselves. This kind of thing was really too puzzling. It doesn't matter if they are from the imperial family or not. Since they have this jade pendant, we can't act recklessly. Zhuorong instructed seriously. The 9th emperors and the 9th imperial concubine had turned the continent upside down. It would only take a flick of a finger for them to exterminate a country. Their small mountain stronghold really couldn't afford to offend them. After Zhuorong gave repeated instructions, he then brought Jingyu and Xiaochen into the house. Jingyu even specially checked the house. There really wasn't anything inside. Did Zhuorong really feel at ease letting Jingyu and the rest stay here? This is really strange. Jingyu wiped her wet hair and looked at the house. She then listened to the movements outside. Not only did no one come to harm them, there were even guards. They were simply treating Jingyu and Xiaochen as VIPs. What's wrong? Xiaochen narrowed his eyes and asked Jingyu. "Xiaochen, tell me honestly. Did you go and threaten Zhuorong?" Jingyu glared at Xiaochen and asked, "Would this king do such a boring thing?" When Xiaochen heard Jingyu's words, he immediately frowned. He reached out and pulled Jingyu into his embrace. After hugging Jingyu, he said with satisfaction, "Isn't this better? There's no such annoying thing." Xiaochen leaned on Jingyu's shoulder and said comfortably, "You really didn't do it?" Jingyu raised her hand and hooked Xiaochen's neck. She frowned and said strangely, "Since you didn't threaten them, our identities weren't exposed. Could it be that they were really frightened by the fierce appearance during the day? That can't be. With such guts, how could they be bandits?" Jingyu was suddenly at a loss. She didn't know what was going on. She originally thought that they would come in the middle of the night to kill people. However, Jingyu slept until the sun rose. It couldn't be more peaceful. When the sun rose, Jingyu lay on the bed and yawned slightly. She was really not used to sleeping elsewhere. Jingyu frowned slightly and turned to look at Xiaochen, who was still sleeping. She raised her eyebrows slightly and reached out to put on her clothes. She opened the window to let the fresh wind in. Just as she was lost in thought and looking at the empty courtyard outside, she suddenly saw a woman walking over with a basin of water, a towel, and some clothes. Jingyu raised her eyebrows in puzzlement. The woman was dressed very appropriately. In this mountain village, she really looked like a lady from a respectable family. Jingyu watched the woman walk closer. As she was washing up and sizing her up, the woman happened to turn her head and see Jingyu standing in front of the window. She was wearing a loose black robe. At first glance, it was obvious that this black robe was a man's robe. Her loose hair swayed slightly in the breeze. That exquisite face and a pair of black gem-like eyes were so dazzling. Chapter 2018. The moment the woman saw Jingyu, she froze on the spot. Her eyes were filled with amazement. Jingyu looked at the woman's stunned eyes and slightly frowned. Before she could do anything, her waist suddenly tightened and a familiar smell came. Xiao Chen's voice carried a lazy tone as if he had just woken up. "What are you looking at?" Xiao Chen carried Jingyu and casually looked up. He saw the woman standing in the courtyard in a daze. The woman looked at Xiao Chen with astonishment. Her eyes were filled with unconcealable amazement. How could a man be so handsome? Jingyu probably felt the man's gaze and suddenly frowned. She hugged Xiao Chen's neck and tiptoed to plant a light kiss on Xiao Chen's face. Xiao Chen looked at Jingyu's initiative and naturally leaned over to deepen the kiss. The two of them acted so intimately as if no one was around, causing the woman standing outside the window to blush slightly. Jingyu expressionlessly closed the window and entered the room. She put on Xiao Chen's mask and nodded. "Your face can only be seen by me." Xiao Chen listened to Jingyu's domineering words and was very pleased. Jingyu also put on her mask and covered her face. Then she walked to the door and opened it. "I am Xia Jifeng. This is what Big Brothers asked me to send over." Xia Jifeng was very polite and slightly bowed to Jingyu. Jingyu gently nodded and reached out to take it. "Thank you for your trouble, Mississippi. You may leave." Jingyu directly closed the door. Her arrogant tone and words made Xia Jifeng freeze on the spot. What did she just hear? Leave? She was actually treated as a maid? Xia Jifeng's face suddenly became ugly. Originally, she heard that Big Brothers had invited a few distinguished people yesterday. She was very curious about who they were, so she volunteered to deliver things, but she did not expect to encounter such a thing. Instantly, he was incomparably furious. He glared at the door as if he wanted to stare a skeleton out of it. "Lady Xia." Seeing Xia Jifeng being treated like this, a maidservant called out worriedly. "Do you know who these people are?" Xia Jifeng took a deep breath, turned around, and walked out of the courtyard before asking. The maid was stunned for a moment, then she shook her head and said, "I don't know." However, since young master said that he was an honored guest, his identity must be extraordinary. The maidservant reminded her vaguely. This Lady Xia had been saved by the young master back then, and for some unknown reason, she had been living in the stockade. She clearly did not have any status, but she always seemed to be the wife of the stockade master. Who knew what an unmarried lady was thinking? The young master and Lady Xia were very congenial, and the maidservants were also silently watching. However, seeing how the young master treated these people so politely yesterday, they must be important people. The maidservant also vaguely reminded Xia Jifeng, but it seemed like Xia Jifeng did not intend to listen. "Go and find out what is going on." Xia Jifeng looked at the maidservant, then waved her hand and said to another maidservant, "Yes." The maidservant bowed. Xia Jifeng nodded in satisfaction and walked towards her room. Chapter 2019. After Jingyu and Xiao Chen washed up and packed their things, they heard that Zhuarong was waiting for them to eat. Jingyu nodded and went over with Xiao Chen. While Xiao Chen and Jingyu were eating, Xia Jifeng also inquired about the situation between Jingyu and Xiao Chen. "You're saying that they are outsiders? Big Brothers actually wants that woman to be his wife?" Xia Jifeng's face was ashen. Her hands that were hanging by her sides slightly clenched. The servant girl beside her nodded in agreement. Yes, this servant heard people say that. Also, because of the fight, it seems that something happened to Boss Lei of the Northwest Mountain. The servant girl frowned. This person was stuttering, no one knew what she wanted to say. "I know." Xia Jifeng's brows furrowed tightly. "Miss Xia, I also heard from Little Shirtu that you must not provoke those people. He said that they will leave soon." The servant girl seriously said to Xia Jifeng, "It's really strange. Since the young master wants to marry a wife, why are they leaving?" Xia Jifeng was silent for a moment. She stood up and said, "Where are they? The young master just invited them to eat. They should have finished eating by now. They should be walking around the stronghold." The servant girl replied. Seeing that Xia Jifeng was about to go over, she suddenly said with some worry, "Miss Xia, what do you want to do?" Since they are important guests, I naturally have to go and see them, Xia Jifeng said as she raised her hand to tidy up her clothes. She turned around and walked out. The servant girl slightly frowned. There was some worry in her heart, but she still quickly followed. When she arrived at the main hall, she just happened to see Zhuorong and Xiaochen talking. Xia Jifeng walked over with a polite smile. Big brother Zhua. Xia Jifeng slightly nodded to Zhuorong, then turned to look at Jingyu and Xiaochen. At this moment, Jingyu and Xiaochen were both wearing masks. But Xia Jifeng had seen their faces before, so she naturally knew how beautiful they were under the masks. These are the important guests that came in yesterday, right? I am Xia Jifeng. Greetings everyone. When Xia Jifeng said this, she glanced at Xiaochen. Jingyu immediately frowned. I don't need maids to serve me here, Jingyu said very casually. The smile on Xia Jifeng's face almost disappeared. Miss, you misunderstand. Jifeng is not a maid, I am. Xia Jifeng tightly clenched her fists and said in a very amiable manner. Not a maid. Jingyu frowned. She turned to Zhuorong and asked, Who is she to you? She doesn't look like your wife? I don't see you introduce her. I am only temporarily staying in Big Brother's house. Xia Jifeng slightly smiled at Jingyu. When she turned to look at Zhuorong, the corner of Jingyu's mouth twitched. Then Jingyu calmly narrowed her eyes and said, An unmarried girl is actually casually staying in a man's house? Ha! Jingyu casually laughed. The contempt in her words made Xia Jifeng's face instantly turn green. Miss Xia, you go and rest first. I have something to say to these guests. Zhuorong looked at the situation and quickly said, Ninth madam, what were we talking about? Are you going to Miaojiang to the north or south? Hearing this, Jingyu slowly turned her gaze back. Chapter 2020. Are you going to Miaojiang? Xia Jifeng originally wanted to leave, but after hearing Zhuorong's words, she stopped again. She turned her head and looked at Jingyu and Xiaochen with some doubts. If you want to go to Miaojiang, I can bring you there. Xia Jifeng's gaze circled around Xiaochen and said, Right. Zhuorong was also slightly surprised and said, I remember that Miss Xia is from Miaojiang. If you need, you can let Miss Xia help you. Miss Xia is from Miaojiang? Jingyu heard this and slowly narrowed her eyes and asked, I don't know if Miss Xia is from Beijiang or Nanjiang. I heard that Miaojiang people are very xenophobic. How can Miss Xia bring us in? Xia Jifeng really didn't want to answer Jingyu's words, but when she saw Xiaochen's gaze, Xia Jifeng smiled very considerately and said, I'm from Beijiang. Miaojiang people are indeed xenophobic, but not all of them. I don't know what you want to do in Miaojiang. We are going to find a friend. Jingyu narrowed her eyes slightly and said, That's a coincidence. I'm familiar with the people of Beijiang. If you want to find someone, you can find Madam. I haven't been back for a year, so I can go back and take a look. Xia Jifeng and Wei raised their eyebrows and smiled very gently. Madam? Which madam? Jingyu narrowed her eyes a little and asked casually. The person in charge of Beijiang, Madam Nye. Xia Jifeng said very admiringly, Madam is very powerful. She can definitely help you. Oh. Jingyu nodded with a faint smile. When Xiaochen heard the familiar name of Madame Nye, his hands suddenly clenched, and the teacup in his hand shattered. Xia Jifeng was shocked and widened her eyes slightly. Mister, are you okay? Xia Jifeng asked very considerately. Your cups are too easy to hold. Jingyu looked at Xia Jifeng with a slightly cold expression, but her tone was still very calm. She reached out and helped Xiaochen wipe the tea off his body. She seemed to be very reproachful as she said, Husband, how could you be so careless? What did you call him? Husband? When Xia Jifeng, who was standing on the side, heard Jingyu's words, she was a bit surprised and cried out involuntarily. What is it? Jingyu looked at Xia Jifeng and curiously turned her head. Then she seemed to have thought of something and said, I forgot to introduce, this is my husband. Jingyu enunciated the word, husband, very clearly. Xia Jifeng's expression changed slightly, but she recovered quickly. She bowed slightly and said with a smile, So the two of you are husband and wife? Of course, Didn't Miss Xia see it when you came to deliver the things this morning? Jing Yu smiled very gently. Xia Jifeng immediately thought of the scene she saw in the morning and almost couldn't maintain the smile on her face. Just as she was about to say something, Jing Yu turned her head. Husband, we're not familiar with Miaojiang. Since Miss Xia is willing to help, why don't we go with her? Jing Yu held Xiao Chen's hand and asked while blinking her eyes. Xiao Chen glanced at Jing Yu. Xia Jifeng also nervously clenched her hands. As long as she could interact with this man for a long time, she didn't believe that she couldn't do anything. Xiao Chen slowly looked down and answered very calmly. Chapter 2021. After Xia Jifeng heard Xiao Chen's reply, her eyes suddenly flashed with light. Jing Yu looked at Xia Jifeng's appearance and the corner of her mouth hooked up into a cold smile. Is this okay? Zhuorong looked at this back and forth and was slightly stunned. When she turned her head to look at Jing Yu and Xiao Chen, there was a faint trace of doubt in her eyes. Jing Yu very casually replied, "Why not? As long as Lady Xia is fine, we naturally can't ask for anything more." Jing Yu curved her eyebrows and replied, "Since she was useful, then let her live a little longer." When Zhuorong heard Jing Yu's words and looked at Jing Yu's expression, she did not know why, but there was a strange uneasiness in her heart. Jing Yu did not say a word. Qin Gu very casually replied a few words, then returned to the room to pack up and prepare to leave. That woman cannot be left alive. Jing Yu very calmly took all the things in the room that needed to be taken, then turned her head to look at Xiao Chen and said, Xiao Chen faintly replied. She saw our appearance. If we return to Miaojiang and find out about our identity, then it will be troublesome. Jing Yu carried the longbow on her back, then turned to look at Xiao Chen and said, "Along the way, see how much this woman knows about Miaojiang. Once she is clear, then deal with it. Don't leave behind any future troubles." Jing Yu's words fell. Xiao Chen silently nodded and replied, "I will listen to you. Let's go." Jing Yu curved her eyebrows and smiled, then followed Xiao Chen to the entrance of the mountain stronghold. Zhuorong and Xia Jifeng were already waiting at the entrance of the mountain stronghold. When Jing Yu and Xiao Chen arrived, they called for everyone to set off. After descending from the mountain and passing through the Yuan Valley, one could see the stone tablet outside the valley. The symbol of the Miaojiang region was engraved on the stone tablet. After Jing Yu and Xiao Chen arrived, Zhuorong stopped to send them off. "Miss Xia, you grew up in the northern border, right?" When they were about to reach the land, Jing Yu and the others sat down to rest. As they ate, she turned to look at Xia Jifeng and asked. Xia Jifeng slowly nodded. Her gaze fell on Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen ate with such elegance. Even with the silver mask, it was difficult to hide his handsomeness. Hearing Jing Yu's words, Xia Jifeng nodded in agreement. "I remember that there were many people who went to Miaojiang before, right? If it's like what you said, then what about the people from the mainland who entered Miaojiang?" Jing Yu seemed to be very curious. Xiao Chen's gaze also turned over. "They all have documents. After arriving at Miaojiang, they go to a specific tribe in Miaojiang and get the documents done. Then, they exchange the mainland's currency for Miaojiang's currency. Then, they can use Miaojiang's currency to buy things." Xia Jifeng said very seriously. "Generally, people who come to Miaojiang are merchants. There were quite a lot of them in the past, but now, there seems to be a lot less." Xia Jifeng faintly smiled and said to Xiao Chen, "Of course, young master, you don't have to go through so much trouble. With this jade pendant, you can directly exchange it at the exchange place. This was left to me by my father. It just so happens that it can help you all." Although Xia Jifeng said this, when she spoke, she looked at Xiao Chen's gaze. It simply made Jing Yu want to dig out this woman's eyes. "Miss Xia, you said that you haven't been to Miaojiang for a year. It seems that you are not clear about the recent events in Miaojiang, right?" Chapter 2022. Jing Yu smiled and asked calmly. Xia Jifeng's eyes widened when she heard Jing Yu's words. "Although I haven't been back for a long time, Miaojiang is where I grew up. Madam, do you think I would lead you the wrong way?" Xia Jifeng said unhappily, If it wasn't for the sudden war between Beijiang and Nanjiang, I wouldn't have left. What? Jing Yu froze and immediately thought of Feng Yu. When Feng Yu left, she seemed to have gone back to Nanjiang, right? Nanjiang and Beijiang have always gotten along well, but I don't know where the news came from, but it said that Madame Nye had an accident and went missing. Because of this, Nanjiang heard the news and wantonly attacked. Xia Jifeng frowned unhappily. Madame Nye is such a powerful person, how could something happen to her? Xia Jifeng turned her head in disdain. Miss Xia, you seem to be very familiar with Madame Nye. Have you met her before? Could it be that the jade pendant you mentioned was given by Madame Nye? Jing Yu's eyes flashed with a dark color, then she turned her head and asked calmly. No, I haven't. Xia Jifeng smiled. This jade pendant has been passed down from our ancestors. Dad went to battle and didn't return, so this jade pendant ended up in my hands. I'm going back this time to take this jade pendant to find Madame Nye. I want to ask about Mother's whereabouts and find a place to settle down. Xia Jifeng sighed deeply and turned to Xiao Qin. So please don't worry, sir. With me here, you will definitely be fine in Miaojiang. Oh. Jing Yu nodded and smiled faintly. Miss Xia definitely wouldn't carry such an important jade pendant with you. My husband and I are a bit worried. If we lost it, wouldn't we be in trouble? Ah. Xia Jifeng looked at Jing Yu like she was looking at an idiot and said, Ninth Madam also knows that this is important. If you don't carry it with you, would you put it somewhere else? Jing Yu heard Xia Jifeng's words and smiled. She nodded slowly and said, Miss Xia is right. This kind of important thing naturally has to be carried with me. But after hearing what Miss Xia said, why do I feel that this jade pendant seems to be more important than you? What? Xia Jifeng was just talking when she suddenly felt the topic change. Xia Jifeng didn't react and frowned in confusion. She turned to Jing Yu and asked, What is it? It seems like as long as we get this jade pendant, it's enough? Jing Yu didn't care about Xia Jifeng. She seriously touched her chin. Then, as if she had thought of something, a faint smile appeared in her eyes. He turned to Xiao Chen and Qin Gu and asked, This is... Zhuorong was listening on the side. Suddenly, she felt that Jing Yu's words changed. She was puzzled. She frowned and looked at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen also nodded faintly. Xia Jifeng, who was on the side, looked at Jing Yu and Xiao Chen's change in expression and suddenly felt a little frightened. You, what do you want to do? Xia Jifeng knew that what Jing Yu and Xiao Chen wanted to say to her along the way was simply to test her. At this moment, Xia Jifeng's eyes were full of fear. Chapter 2023. It's nothing. Jing Yu leaned on Xiao Chen and said contentedly, Since you're no longer useful, why should I keep you around? Xia Jifeng couldn't help but tremble. Then, as if she thought of something, she hurriedly turned to Zhuorong and said, Brother Zhua. They want to kill me. Hurry and help me. Zhuorong was also stunned by this sudden turn of events. His eyes were filled with shock as he looked at Jing Yu and Xiao Chen. He opened his mouth slightly and said, Everyone, is there a misunderstanding? Lady Xia wants to help you. Zhuorong said seriously. Jing Yu heard this and curled her lips in amusement. I know, she can only blame herself for seeing something she shouldn't have. What? Xia Jifeng was stunned. Zhuorong was also stunned. He didn't know what Xia Jifeng saw. Third Xing, Jing Yu slowly closed her eyes and said, Find that jade pendant and deal with it properly. Yes, madam. Third Xing stood up and walked towards Xia Jifeng. Zhuorong hurriedly stood up to speak, but the moment he stood up, Jing Yu pointed the bow in her hand at Zhuorong with a strong murderous aura. Young Master Zhua, do you think it's a good deal to sacrifice the lives of countless people in your stronghold for an unrelated person? Jing Yu's pitch-black eyes were filled with a strong warning. Xiao Chen, 15th Xing, and the others were also ready to attack. After hearing Jing Yu's words, Zhuorong's originally stiff body became even stiffer. He looked at Jing Yu's cold bow and then looked at Xiao Chen and Third Xing's stance. He instantly frowned. After that, his movement to get up slowly relaxed and he sat back down on his seat. Young Master Zhua is indeed smart. The arrow in Jing Yu's hand loosened a little. She seemed to be very happy as she smiled and said, "I killed that boss Lei. His subordinates are scattered. Isn't it the best choice for young Master Zhuo to recruit them and expand your force?" Jing Yu smiled happily. "This is a very good deal. If young Master Zhuo doesn't know how to cherish it, I think the other forces would be very happy if they could swallow these two strongholds in one fell swoop." Haha. Jing Yu's words made Zhuorong's heart skip a beat. Then, she laughed heartily and looked at Jing Yu seriously. "Ninth madam, you must be joking." Seeing that Zhuorong did not intend to intervene, Xia Jifeng was really scared this time. She thought that with her long friendship with Zhuorong would help her no matter what. However, she didn't expect Zhuorong to really not help her after a few words from Jing Yu. "Zhuorong, you bastard! Do you know who I am?" Xia Jifeng's eyes were filled with fear. "My father is Madam's trusted aide. If Madam Nye finds out, what do you think will happen to your little stronghold?" Xia Jifeng roared furiously. Jing Yu raised her brows calmly. "I heard that you didn't contact Miaojiang at all in the past 6 months. Do you think anyone will know that you went missing?" Zhuorong was calm. Chapter 2024. Hearing this, Xia Jifeng's face turned even paler. Because of this, Xia Jifeng didn't want to say who she was. She only said that she was a refugee from Miaojiang. After she fell in love with Zhuorong, she wanted to stay in the village. Therefore, in this Miaojiang, no one knew where Xia Jifeng went. They only knew that she went out. Now, even if Xia Jifeng was really killed, no one would know. After Zhuorong's words, Xia Jifeng's face turned pale. Third Xing walked over step by step. Xia Jifeng threw something out from her sleeves, causing Third Xing's face to turn cold. As he dodged, the sharp sword in his hand also split the thing that Xia Jifeng threw over. When he saw that thing fall to the ground, he realized that the thing that was split open by the sword was actually a poisonous spider or scorpion. "Fall!" Qinggu stepped forward and sprinkled some powder on Xia Jifeng. Under Qingji's command, Xia Jifeng immediately fell down. "Your reaction is quite fast." Jing Yu looked at Qingji's actions and said with satisfaction. Her lips curled up in delight. Miaojiang people all like to play this game. Qinggu laughed and sprinkled something on Xia Jifeng's body. Then, something came out from Xia Jifeng's sleeves. They were all poisonous things. These poisons aren't very poisonous. At most, they can cause pain or numbness. Looks like this woman didn't learn any real skills. Qinggu checked and made sure that there was nothing else on Xia Jifeng's body. Then he stood up with satisfaction. "I thought you were some powerful person. You wasted so many of my things." Qingji's face was full of pain. In his excitement, he sprinkled too much powder. "Really?" Jing Yu shook her head silently. She turned around and asked Third Xing to drag Xia Jifeng away and come back after finding the jade. Zhuorong saw this scene. Originally, Zhuorong thought that although Jing Yu didn't have any internal strength, her archery and fighting skills were very powerful. This Qinggu also didn't have any internal strength and didn't look like someone who practiced martial arts. He was still curious about Qingji's skills. Now that he saw it, he understood. So Qinggu was actually a doctor? Looking at this powder, it could actually resist goo worms. Zhuorong suddenly thought of the village. He wanted to drug Xia Jifeng? If he really did drug Xia Jifeng, it would be discovered in a matter of minutes, right? What would it be like if he was discovered? When Zhuorong thought of this, he was inviting a wolf into the house. Luckily, he was quick-witted enough to stop it. Otherwise, something big would have happened. Zhuorong looked at Xia Jifeng, who was being dragged away. Then, he looked at Qinggu, who was studying the corpse of a spider with a branch. He silently swallowed a mouthful of saliva. None of them were simple. This Qinggu looked like the easiest to bully. However, he didn't know that he was actually the scariest. "I can almost foresee what Miaojiang will be like." Jing Yu frowned. Why are the people of Miaojiang so obsessed with these things? "It's not too late to regret now," Xiao Chen said calmly when he heard Jing Yu's words. Jing Yu glared at Xiao Chen coldly. Chapter 2025. Regret. Jing Yu frowned when she heard that. She looked unhappy. If I regretted, I wouldn't have come with you. Jing Yu ignored Xiao Chen in disgust. Third Xing also got a jade pendant. Looking at the jade pendant in Third Xing's hand, Jing Yu slightly narrowed her eyes and raised her eyebrows happily. This is the jade pendant she was talking about? Jing Yu curiously took it and looked at it. Looking at this small white jade pendant, it really looked no different from an ordinary jade pendant. Yes, this is the jade pendant we found on that woman. Third Xing nodded. It seems like this jade pendant is enough. Jing Yu nodded slowly and turned to look at Zhuorong. She smiled gently and said, "Young Master Zhua, about today's matter, ninth madam, don't worry. I won't say a word." Zhuorong replied seriously when he heard Jing Yu's words. Jing Yu nodded with satisfaction when she heard Zhuorong's reply. That was what she wanted. We're almost at Miaojiang. There's no need for young Master Zhua to continue sending us off. Jing Yu said considerately, "Why don't we go back tomorrow?" Of course. Zhuorong agreed. After resting for a day, Jing Yu and Xiao Chen continued their journey the next morning. Zhuorong also left with his men. Jing Yu was relieved that so many people had left. It was better to have a smaller target. "Ninth madam, are you sure that Zhuorong won't reveal our whereabouts?" Qinggu rode on the horse and looked at the stone tablet in the Miaojiang territory being left behind. He immediately looked at Jing Yu and asked worriedly. "Don't worry." Jing Yu, on the other hand, was very calm. She sat on the horse and held the white jade in her hand. She looked at it carefully against the sun. When she heard Qingji's words, she slowly lowered her sore head and put the thing in her hand away. Zhuorong is a smart person. He knows what to say and what not to say. Jing Yu narrowed her eyes and said, if he was threatened with death, Zhuorong would definitely reveal our whereabouts. But we didn't leave any evidence behind, did we? It doesn't matter even if he reveals it. As long as we enter Miaojiang, everything will be easy. Jing Yu nodded with satisfaction. When Qinggu heard Jing Yu's words, he agreed. It seemed that Jing Yu and Xiao Chen did not reveal their identities. Jing Yu and Xiao Chen continued to walk forward. They saw more and more people on the road. These Miaojiang women were wearing clothes that were different from Jing Yu's. Jing Yu frowned when she heard the clanging sounds on their clothes. It was really like a foreign style. As a result, Jing Yu and the others walked on the street and attracted a lot of attention. Jing Yu even sensed some hostility from these gazes. Jing Yu frowned when she saw this scene. She finally knew why the Miaojiang people were xenophobic. The first thing they did when they came in was to get their identity documents, exchange for silver notes, and change their clothes. If they didn't change their clothes, they would definitely be stared at like this. This was too much of an exposure. Jing Yu twitched her mouth and looked at the city that was getting closer. Chapter 2026. She finally heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. They finally arrived. But when they reached the door, they were stopped. Yan Chenyang, who was at the side, showed the jade pendant. The people who arrogantly stopped Jing Yu immediately respectfully sent Jing Yu and the others in. This thing is really useful. Jing Yu looked at this scene and immediately nodded. Next, she went to get the identity document. But after Jing Yu and Xiao Chen showed the jade pendant, they knew that Jing Yu and Xiao Chen were only here to look for someone. They quickly said that there was no need to get the identity document. They only gave Jing Yu and Xiao Chen a very strange bell to hang on their body. What does this mean? Jing Yu held the bell very strangely and turned to look at Yan Chenyang and asked. It means that we have been recognized. Yan Chenyang looked at the bell and said, the people in Miaojiang, no matter who they are, will use the goo poison. But they are not allowed to use it wantonly. We are outsiders if we don't have this thing. We will be recognized as outsiders by the people in Miaojiang. It is very likely that we will be kicked out. Now that we have this, we are one of them. Yan Chenyang shook the bell in his hand and said, hang it on your body, no one will know that we are outsiders. If we change our clothes, we will look like the people in Miaojiang. No one will suspect us. Jing Yu slowly nodded after Yan Chenyang's words. She turned around and changed all the banknotes from the mainland into Miaojiang's money. Except for the different pattern on the banknotes, there seemed to be no other difference. After changing the money, Jingyu and Xiaochen went to the clothing store to change their clothes. Jingyu looked at the clothes that exposed her thighs and navel. Suddenly, the corner of her mouth twitched. What should she do? These are men's clothes? Jingyu was still in a dilemma. Was it really good to wear such revealing clothes? But when she turned her head and saw Qinggu and Xiaochen's men's clothes, she almost burst out laughing. This man's clothes seemed to only cover his chest. The muscles on his back and abdomen were exposed. Qingji's face was full of despair. Xiaochen's face was also completely dark. Jingyu at the side almost choked. She chose a very conservative set of clothes. But in the eyes of Qinggu and Xiaochen men, it was extremely revealing. Jingyu, this woman's clothes was even more so. Fortunately, Jingyu was a modern person. She could still accept this kind of clothes. Jingyu and Xiaochen separated. After changing their clothes, she went to comb her hair to look like the people of Miaojiang. Suddenly, she seemed to have a lot of iron on her body. Along with her casual walk, there was a very clear sound. Jingyu quietly continued to put on the heavenly silk gloves. Her originally ordinary mask had also been replaced with a mask that matched her dark blue clothes. The half of her face that was exposed, her slender waist, and her long legs were simply enough to cause one's nose to bleed at any moment. Looking at herself in the mirror, she couldn't believe that her disguise was so successful. She couldn't even see a shadow of her past self. Coupled with the black gloves and the bow on her back, she couldn't have looked more perfect. Chapter 2027. Jingyu reached out and picked up the longbow at the side. Her cold appearance made Jingyu look stunningly beautiful. The eyes of the woman who was helping Jingyu to change were filled with amazement when she saw Jingyu's appearance after changing. "Madam, you are really too beautiful. You are more beautiful than anyone I have ever seen," the woman said in amazement. "You flatter me." Jingyu nodded slightly. When she stepped out of the house, she saw Xiaochen, Qinggu, and the rest turning their heads to look at her. Qinggu, Xing-san, and the rest were talking about how uncomfortable the clothes were. When they heard Jingyu's footsteps, they turned their heads out of habit. However, they did not expect to see such a stunning Jingyu. They were instantly stunned on the spot. Jingyu looked at the group of people's attire and the smile in her eyes widened bit by bit. Xiaochen's clothes were the same color as hers. Qinggu and Yan Chenyang's clothes were dark purple while Xing-san and Xing-san's were completely black. For some reason, Jingyu felt that Xiaochen's attire was so sexy. "Husband." Jingyu walked toward Xiaochen. Every step she took was filled with charm. The women in Miaojiang had slightly yellowish skin. Jingyu's fair skin was simply compelling. One could not help but look at Jingyu's waist and legs. When Xiaochen saw Jingyu, he was filled with amazement. However, after the amazement, he furrowed his brows tightly. His face was filled with dissatisfaction. Without a word, he took a cloak and wrapped Jingyu up. "What are you doing?" Jingyu looked at Xiaochen's actions and the corner of her mouth twitched. "Bring a few more cloaks over." Xiaochen completely ignored Jingyu. After wrapping Jingyu up tightly, he also wrapped himself up. Qinggu, Xing-san, and the rest also put on their cloaks before leaving the shop in satisfaction. The clothing shop owner and the rest of the people. A bunch of lunatics. Jingyu, Xiaochen, and the rest led their horses and found an inn to stay. Xing-san and Yan Chenyang went out to gather information. Jingyu, Xiaochen, and the rest went out to the shops to buy some necessities. Maps and some other things were needed here. When Xiaochen and Jingyu walked on the streets, they attracted a lot of attention. Jingyu looked at those women who didn't hide their love and wanted to kill them at any moment. As for Xiaochen, when he looked at those men, he looked at Jingyu with a murderous gaze. Therefore, Jingyu announced her possessiveness overbearingly and stuck to Xiaochen the whole way. Xiaochen also hugged Jingyu, his whole body exuding a kind of unapproachable aura. Jingyu was very satisfied. After buying most of the necessities, Jingyu looked at the map in her hand as she walked. Only then did she know that they were still at the edge of Miaojiang. The southern and northern borders are really far apart. It's like the distance between two countries. Jingyu looked at the map in her hand and frowned unhappily. If it was like this, how difficult would it be for them to find a person in such a big place? Miaojiang isn't as rich as the mainland and there aren't many people. Don't think that the area of this land is very big. In reality, there isn't much useful land here. Chapter 2028. Xiao Chen squinted his eyes slightly and said, "The land you see is all wasteland, gravel, mountainous land, and the like. It can't grow food or raise things. It's even more uninhabitable. So although this Miaojiang is very vast, there are actually very few people living here." After Xiao Chen's words fell, Jingyu nodded as if she understood. No wonder these Miaojiang people are bent on invading the mainland. If these Miaojiang people go to the mainland, they should be able to reproduce well? Jingyu looked up at Xiao Chen and said very seriously. Xiao Chen replied faintly, "The Miaojiang people's goo control technique is too frightening. If they go to the mainland and there is no one to restrain them, they will do whatever they want." Jingyu nodded in agreement. When they returned to the inn, Xing San and Yan Chenyang had also returned. However, they did not find any valuable information. Jingyu and Xiao Chen also understood very well. What could they find in this kind of border city? Have a good night's rest. Tomorrow we will set off to the place where the patriarch of the northern borderline is. After Jingyu and Xiao Chen said a few words, they turned and left. Each of them returned to their own room. Jingyu also took off her gloves and bowed. After Jingyu took off her things, she looked at Xiao Chen and asked in confusion, "We went out and walked around. Didn't we see this? In Miaojiang, there are things that mention us. Do you think this is because Miaojiang doesn't have it at all, or this city is too small? Maybe it's too remote." Xiao Chen replied. When he saw Jingyu take off her cloak and reveal her perfect clothes, his eyes were suddenly dyed with some other colors. "I guess so too." Jingyu nodded slowly. When she turned to look at Xiao Chen, she saw Xiao Chen's muscular abs. The way he sat there casually made Jingyu drool. "Are you satisfied?" Xiao Chen seemed to have noticed Jingyu's gaze. He smiled faintly and looked at Jingyu calmly. "Hubby, do you know what I want to do when I see you like this?" Jingyu's eyes were filled with an intense look. Xiao Chen raised his eyebrows in amusement and reached out to remove the mask on his face. The corners of his thin lips were so alluring as he narrowed his eyes at Jingyu and asked, "What does Madam want?" "Monster." When Jingyu saw Xiao Chen's actions, the corners of her mouth twitched violently. This was a blatant temptation. "Monster?" Xiao Chen immediately smiled. He watched as Jingyu walked closer step by step. Her slender waist swayed and her long legs strode forward. The look in his dark eyes became more serious. Jingyu reached out to put the mask aside. She reached out to wrap her arms around Xiao Chen's neck and said, "What should I do? I can't help but want to pounce on you like this." "Is that so?" Xiao Chen nodded in satisfaction and said, "What a coincidence. This king also wants to pounce on you." "Then let's see who will pounce on who." Jingyu's lips slowly curled up. The desire to battle in her eyes made Xiao Chen's blood boil. He liked Jingyu like this. Jingyu's declaration of war was quite domineering. But when they really rolled onto the bed, it was a tragic sight. "I didn't take off my clothes." Jingyu's obscure voice came from the bed. Chapter 2029. Jingyu and Xiao Chen were riding on the road. Normally, this kind of road would be crowded if it was on the mainland. However, there was not a single person here, which made Jingyu speechless. When she came in, she was still thinking about how to hide herself. Now that she looked like this, what was there to hide? Jingyu sighed deeply. In his heart, he couldn't help but wonder if even if he had this face, no one would be able to discover him. Jingyu sighed deeply. There were no villages or shops in front of them, and they still had to spend the night in the wilderness. Looking at the sunset, Jingyu felt that the scenery was really good. However, just as Jingyu was admiring the scenery, she suddenly saw a figure appear in front of the road. Then she heard the sound of horse hooves. It was a pitch-black armored horse, and those people were waving the long swords in their hands. Beside the horse, the person being chased was a girl covered in scars. Seeing the girl running as if she had gone mad, the girl's eyes were filled with fear. Her figure that rushed out was even more frightening. Jing Yu narrowed her eyes slightly as she looked at the scene in front of her. The girl seemed to have seen Jing Yu and the rest, and as if she had seen her savior, she stumbled towards Jing Yu and the rest. Help me. The girl looked as if she had seen her only savior, and she rushed over with a face full of excitement. Jing Yu looked at the girl and didn't intend to intervene. Now that they couldn't even protect themselves, they naturally wouldn't do something meaningless. If they exposed themselves, wouldn't the gains not make up for the losses? Therefore, Jing Yu very calmly stepped aside and made way for her, looking like she didn't want to bother with her. However, Jing Yu, Xiao Chen and the rest had already made way for her. When the girl saw Jing Yu and the rest's actions, the hope that had been ignited with great difficulty in her eyes was once again extinguished. She had no choice but to continue running forward. However, she didn't want to fall to the ground again. Probably because she knew that she couldn't escape, she fell to the ground not far away from Jing Yu and the rest. Jing Yu and the rest looked at her indifferently, obviously not wanting to intervene. The people in black armor also caught up with them. Jing Yu raised her eyebrows slightly, as if she wasn't interested, and turned to leave. "Boss, what should we do with these people?" When the black-armored men saw that Jing Yu, Xiao Chen, and the others were about to leave, they immediately turned their heads and asked the leader of the group. "This matter can't be leaked. Naturally, there can't be any survivors. Kill them all." The leader looked at Jing Yu and the rest and said coldly. They didn't look like they had a big background. He turned to look at the girl on the ground and said coldly. Jing Yu, who was about to leave, was so angry that she laughed when she heard these words. "Aren't you guys being too unreasonable?" Jing Yu looked at the group of people from the corner of her eyes and said, "We are just passing by. What does it have to do with us if you kill your people? We, the Black Knights, do things reasonably. You can only blame yourselves for being here." The leader pursed his lips coldly and looked at Jing Yu, Xiao Chen and the rest. He said, "Quickly settle this and report back." The group responded and then surrounded Jing Yu and the rest. Chapter 2030. Jing Yu was so angry that she wanted to laugh. Did these people really send themselves to their doorsteps to seek death? Jing Yu's eyes were ice cold as she looked at the people surrounding them. She curled her lips in disdain and said, "I didn't want to interfere, but I got myself into trouble just because I was passing by. Since you're so bent on seeking death, why would I not agree?" Jing Yu smiled warmly. The men in black surrounding Ali were stunned. They seemed to be thinking about Jing Yu's boastful words. Their eyes filled with anger, and they beckoned for their men to charge forward. Jing Yu unceremoniously took the bow from her back and unsheathed her sharp blade, starting a massacre. The men in black probably didn't expect that Jing Yu's group, who clearly didn't look like people they couldn't afford to offend, would kill without hesitation. Those Black Knights were instantly beheaded. Who are you? How dare you interfere with our Black Knight's business?" The leader finally realized that something was amiss. His expression changed instantly, and he glared fiercely at Jing Yu and Xiao Chen. "We interfere?" Jing Yu was stunned when she heard this. Then she seemed to have thought of something very interesting. With a faint smile in her eyes, she said, "Did you see it clearly? If you didn't give the order to stop us, we would have left already, okay?" Jing Yu looked at the man in black like he was an idiot. "You asked for it. You." The leader's expression changed instantly, and a hint of seriousness appeared in his eyes. He sized up Jing Yu's group and said, "We're working for Madame Nya. If you know what's good for you, scram." "HM?" Jing Yu raised her brows in amusement as though she thought of something interesting. "You just said, you're Madame Nya's subordinates?" Jing Yu asked seriously. When the man saw the effect of using Madame Nya's name, his lips turned up eerily. "Now you know how to be afraid?" "That's right, we're working for Madame Nya, and this woman is also someone Madame Nya wants." The man in black said arrogantly. "Originally," Jing Yu pursed her lips and said, "Originally, I didn't want to continue meddling, but since you're Madame Nya's people, it's better for you to die." What? The leader's eyes widened when he heard Jing Yu's words. "What do you want?" "I work for Madame Nya. If you kill me, Madame Nye won't let you off. The man in black said with fear in his eyes. Jing Yu looked at his expression and her lips turned up in disdain. I'm just afraid she doesn't know. Jing Yu narrowed her eyes indifferently and completely ignored this man's shouts as she killed them all on the spot. The woman sitting on the ground was shocked. She originally thought she was done for after hearing these people mention Madame Nye's name. How many people in the northern border didn't give Madame Nye face? What an idiot! Jing Yu smiled disdainfully as she looked at the man lying on the ground. He was the only one alive among the corpses around him. Chapter 2031. You're not from the northern frontier. Who are you? The man watched as Jing Yu walked closer step by step. She was clearly beautiful and alluring, but he wasn't in the mood to admire her at all. His eyes were filled with fear as he watched Jing Yu walk over. You don't need to know who we are. Jing Yu stood in front of the man, her eyes calm and ruthless. Jing Yu smiled and said, I didn't want to kill you at first, but who told you to be Madame Nye's subordinate? Jing Yu's lips curled into a cruel smile after she said that. She raised her longbow neatly and ruthlessly stabbed it into the man's throat. My clothes are dirty. Jing Yu watched as the blood splattered on her clothes. Although it was only 1 or 2 drops, Jing Yu was still very unhappy. I told you to let me do it, but you wouldn't, Xiao Chen said helplessly when he heard Jing Yu's words. Jing Yu raised her brows slightly and turned to look at Xiao Chen. I haven't killed anyone in a long time. I just want to practice. After Jing Yu finished speaking, she even winked her eyes playfully. Third Xing, Qinggu, and the others, who had reached out their hands, were instantly speechless. Was this really something a girl could say? Xiao Chen, on the other hand, was calm. His doting look made people even more speechless. Xiao Chen waved his hands slightly, indicating for Xing San and Xing Shiwu to clean up the scene. See if there's anything useful on them, Jing Yu said with a wave of her hand before turning to walk towards the completely dumbfounded woman. Thank you, benefactors, for saving us. When the woman saw Jing Yu walk over, her body clearly trembled, and then she bowed with great fear. Don't. Jing Yu raised her hand and said, killing them has nothing to do with saving you. These people came to ask me to kill them. I have something to ask you right now. After Jing Yu said that, the woman didn't realize that Jing Yu didn't save her at all. Instead, she looked even more grateful. Jing Yu silently squatted down in front of the woman and frowned slightly at the woman covered in wounds. You know Madame Nye? Madame Nye wants to capture you? Jing Yu found what the man in black said very strange. Madame Nye actually wanted to capture this woman? Why? Madam, please save me. When the woman heard Jing Yu's words, she immediately grabbed onto Jing Yu's hand agitatedly, her eyes filled with fear. Jing Yu instantly's brows furrowed. Don't rush, speak slowly. It was rare for Jing Yu to comfort her, but the woman opened her mouth in horror, and then... Shit. Jing Yu looked at the woman who had fainted, and the corners of her mouth twitched fiercely. She was already in position, waiting to hear the breaking news. However, at such a critical moment, she actually fainted just like that? Jing Yu watched Qinggu go up to check her pulse and asked calmly with a slight frown, is this person still alive? She just fainted from exhaustion and hunger. Qinggu quietly retracted his hand and looked at Jing Yu speechlessly. It's fine as long as she's not dead. Jing Yu stood up and looked at Xing San, Xing Shiwu, and the others who had cleaned up the floor. Chapter 2032. He then said, I'll ride with Xiao Chen. Bring this woman along and let's go. No one is here yet. If we're discovered, we'll be in trouble. Jing Yu muttered to herself. She turned around and got on the horse. She looked at the woman on the horse and raised her eyebrows calmly. Jing Yu didn't know why, but she felt that something interesting was about to happen. Jing Yu and Xiao Chen's group had traveled quite a distance. Naturally, they couldn't take the main road, so they took the small path. The sky was getting dark. Jing Yu and Xiao Chen had no choice but to stop for the night. It was really difficult to pass the night in this wasteland. We can't stop. Xiao Chen suddenly said just as Jingyu was about to stop. Jingyu was stunned when she heard Xiao Chen's words. She looked at Xiao Chen strangely and asked, "Why?" "Someone is chasing us. Let's go." Xiao Chen's expression was very ugly. He pulled Jingyu onto the horse without another word and rode the horse into the small path. Jingyu sat on the horse and asked curiously, "How do you know that someone is chasing us?" "Intuition." Xiao Chen responded faintly and turned to leave. Jingyu's mouth twitched. Didn't they say that a woman's sixth sense was the most accurate? Then what was Xiao Chen doing now? Jingyu didn't know that not long after Xiao Chen and Jingyu's group left, a group of black riders appeared on the main road. Their clothes were the same as those that Jingyu met during the day. "Leader, he was killed by someone." Those corpses were found in the grass, and the eyes of the leader were filled with gloom. "Madam has ordered that we must not let that woman live. Chase after her," the leader said coldly. "Not too long ago. Those people must not have gone far. They might stay overnight. Let's go." This group of people majestically chased after Jingyu and Xiao Chen. In this dark night, there was an inexplicable sense of strangeness. Jingyu and Xiao Chen didn't rest at all that night. Although they didn't know if there was anyone chasing after them, since Xiao Chen said so, Jingyu and the others had to pay attention to it. They didn't stop running the whole night. When the sky was bright, everyone finally stopped to rest. They didn't look at the map at all, so they didn't know which mountain they had wandered into. The woman was still unconscious, while Qinggu and Yan Chenyang looked very tired. "Third Xing, go ahead and take a look." Xiao Chen turned around and said to Third Xing. Third Xing acknowledged and turned around to check on the enemy. "You guys rest for a while." Jingyu said to Qinggu and climbed up the trees on the hill. She narrowed her eyes and looked at the road in the distance. Her eyes were tinged with a faint coldness. "Looks like we won't find them so soon." After Jingyu came down, she let everyone eat something and continued on their way. When Third Xing came back, he didn't find anyone behind him. Jingyu thought that they had probably shaken him off. She let everyone rest for a while and took out the map to study it. Then, they continued on their way. After walking for an entire morning, they finally found a very small village. Jingyu and the others' eyes lit up slightly. They rode their horses over. When the villagers saw Jingyu and the others arrive, and then looked at Jingyu and the others, they were a little frightened. Chapter 2033. However, when Jingyu helped the woman forward, the villagers were very enthusiastic and cleared out a room for Jingyu and the others to rest. "Madam, what happened to you all?" The person who cleared out the room was a very kind old lady. When she saw the woman lying on the bed covered in wounds, she immediately frowned and asked curiously, "We were going to visit our relatives." Jingyu smiled and said, "But we didn't expect to meet some barbarians on the way. They injured my sister to this extent, so we had no choice but to escape here." "Please don't take offense," Jingyu said sincerely. "So that's how it is." The old granny nodded calmly and turned to cook porridge for everyone. Jingyu looked at the departing figure and silently lowered her head. After a deep sigh, she turned and walked to the side of the bed. "Qinggu, we can't stay here for long. Let's see when the woman wakes up," Jingyu said with a frown. "Okay." Qinggu nodded slowly. "Third Xing, stand guard outside the village. Let me know if there's any movement," Xiao Chen said to Third Xing. Third Xing acknowledged respectfully and turned to leave. This village was probably very remote. There were only a dozen or so families. Qinggu asked Jingyu to help this person change into a new set of clothes and bandage her wound. Only then did he let out a sigh of relief. After helping the girl with the acupuncture, she woke up once. However, after eating, she fell into a deep sleep again. "It seems like we won't be able to leave tonight," Jingyu said with a frown as she looked at the woman's sleeping appearance. "Okay." Xiao Chen responded and said quietly, "Have a good night's rest. We'll set off tomorrow." Jingyu, Xiao Chen, and the others. That night, Jingyu didn't sleep well. In the pitch-black night, she seemed to hear a voice calling out her name. However, no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't find who it was. Finally, Jingyu opened her eyes wide and woke up from her sleep. "There's a voice." The moment Jingyu woke up, Xiao Chen also opened his eyes. The two of them looked at each other and fear slowly filled their eyes. Let's go take a look. A commotion broke out in the quiet village. Jing Yu and Xiao Chen opened the window slightly and saw the Black Knights from afar. This time, there were even more of them. However, there were still 4 or 5 more people. It seemed like this was a small group of people who had checked this area. What exactly does this woman know? Jing Yu looked at this scene and frowned. She asked, "Why are we being chased like this?" "I don't know." Xiao Chen frowned silently and his eyes were cold. "What should we do now?" Jing Yu sighed and turned to look at Xiao Chen. "Strike first and gain the upper hand," Xiao Chen replied after a moment of silence. "That's exactly what I was thinking." Jing Yu's eyes lit up. The villagers outside were alarmed. The men in black seemed to be asking questions and the villagers were in fear and trepidation. They vaguely saw someone pointing at the house where Jing Yu and the others were. Jing Yu tightened her grip on the bow and arrow in her hand and her eyes were filled with killing intent. Just as the men in black were about to take a step forward, the arrow in Jing Yu's hand suddenly shot out, and the throat of the man in front was instantly pierced. Chapter 2034. There's movement. The moment the first person fell, the rest of the villagers widened their eyes. They probably didn't expect Jing Yu and the rest to act so quickly. Kill! Xiao Chen didn't give these people a chance to react. He rushed out and subdued them in an instant. Jing Yu was hiding in the house and shooting arrows. The villagers had never seen such a scene before. They immediately screamed in panic and fled in all directions. Xiao Chen, Third Xing, and the rest quickly took care of these people. Jing Yu saw that the person wanted to shoot a signal flare. Her face instantly turned cold and she shot the arrow through the signal flare without hesitation. What kind of ability did she have to be able to shoot so accurately? After the last person fell, Jing Yu slowly walked out of the house. Looking at the person on the ground, her eyes were cold. There are no survivors, right? Jing Yu turned to look at 15th Xing, who was inspecting the villagers, and asked. Yes, they're all dead. 15th Xing stood up and gave the one who was not completely dead another stab before he turned around and walked out. The unconscious woman finally got up and walked towards Jing Yu when she heard the commotion. You're awake? You woke up at the right time. Jing Yu pulled a horse from the side and turned to ask the woman, Do you know how to ride a horse? A little. The woman nodded slowly. Very good. Get on the horse. Jing Yu turned and said, Those people will catch up soon. We have to go. Qinggu, leave some money for these villagers. Let's go. Jing Yu didn't have time to think about what these villagers would do. Would they be killed when those people caught up? Jing Yu couldn't even protect herself. How could she protect others? Jing Yu got on the horse and left with the group. Moreover, these people were from Miaojiang. Jing Yu remembered why she came to Miaojiang. Jing Yu, Xiao Chen, and the rest left without any hesitation. As expected, the pursuers caught up quickly. After asking about Jing Yu and the rest's whereabouts, why would they care about the villagers? When the sky was slightly bright, 3rd Xing and 15th Xing took another path and purposely left traces to lure the pursuers away. Jing Yu, Xiao Chen, and the rest took another path. Go through here. The woman led Jing Yu and the rest into a cave to hide. Jing Yu wasn't worried about 3rd Xing and 15th Xing. She could only hide here for now. Jing Yu looked at the hidden cave and panted slightly. She turned to the woman and asked, You've been here before? I've been here before. I brought my younger brother here to dig for herbs and hid from the rain here. The woman knelt down in front of Jing Yu and Xiao Chen very solemnly. Thank you, sirs, for saving my life. Don't be in such a hurry to thank us. Jing Yu frowned coldly. If you can't tell me anything valuable about Madame Nie, I will abandon you without hesitation. Jing Yu's words were cold. The woman's eyes widened slightly when she heard Jing Yu's words. I'm Qing Shui, Madame Nie's personal maid. The woman took a deep breath and said, Because I discovered Madame Nie's secret, Madame Nie will never let me live. What secret? Jing Yu frowned. Once the child Gu dies, that person dies as well, Qing Shui said seriously. I wasn't planted with the Gu back then, so I escaped this time. Madame Nye could only send people to kill me. I see. Jing Yu nodded calmly. Chapter 2036. But why didn't Madame Nye use Gu on you? Jing Yu asked as she looked at Qing Shui. I'm also a Gu cultivator. I work for Madame Nye, so when she put the Gu in me, I can make the Gu come out on its own. I'm the last Gu cultivator in Beijiang. Qing Shui's eyes were filled with sadness as she said this. Miaojiang is a holy land for Gu worms. You all say that we Miaojiang people all know how to raise Gu worms, but that is not raising Gu worms at all. Raising a Gu worm is like treating it as your own child. But now, people only treat that Gu worm as a worm. The Gu you raise isn't called Gu. It's just poison. Qing Shui sighed deeply. It's passed down in my family. In my blood, blood is poison. Madame Nye needs me to help her raise more poison, so I've been working for Madame Nye all these years. It's useless for Madame Nye to put Gu in me, Qing Shui said with her head lowered as she looked at Jing Yu, Xiao Chen, and the others. You know who we are? Jing Yu understood the meaning behind Qing Shui's words. She kept saying, Miaojiang, so she clearly didn't include Jing Yu and the others. I don't know. Qing Shui shook her head. But I know that you're not from Miaojiang. Your actions and words are different, but I know that you must be Madame Nye's enemies. The enemy of an enemy is a friend. Miss, you're really amazing. Jing Yu nodded deeply, a faint smile in her eyes. She looked at Qing Shui and said, You're telling us so much. Aren't you afraid that we'll kill you once we know everything? You won't. Qing Shui sighed deeply. No one knows Madame Nye better than I do. You need my help, and I need your help. Ha! Jing Yu smiled faintly and said seriously, You're right. I do need your help. Qing Gu. After Jing Yu called out, Qing Gu took out a portrait from his arms. Jing Yu showed the portrait to Qing Gu and asked, Have you seen this person before? Jing Yu reached out and handed it over. Qing Shui took it and looked at the person in the portrait. She frowned slightly as if she was thinking. After a moment of silence, she seemed to have thought of something. Her eyes suddenly widened and she said, It's that man. You've seen it before? Jing Yu knew she had a chance when she heard Qing Shui's words. Isn't this Madame Nye's beloved? Qing Shui frowned deeply. I remember once when I was cleaning up a room, I saw a portrait of this person. It's Madame Nye's beloved. But I heard this man is a heartless man. Madame Nye never allowed us to mention this person. I don't even know his name, but I know he's Madame Nye's beloved. I heard this man abandoned Madame Nye after they got married. So everyone in the clan says that Madame Nye hates men because of this incident. As for whether it's true or just a rumor, I don't know. Qing Shui frowned slowly. Are you here to look for someone? Yes. Jing Yu frowned in confusion when she heard Qing Shui's words. Does this mean there's a love history? Chapter 2037. We need to find this person, Jing Yu said very seriously. Are you sure you've only seen a portrait and haven't seen the person in person? Qing Shui thought about it seriously and nodded. But some of Madame Nye's subordinates always go back and do strange things. Perhaps Madame Nye locked this person up? It's not impossible. We have to meet her anyway, so we'll know when the time comes. Jing Yu saw that there was finally some progress in this matter, and a faint trace of iciness appeared in her eyes. Judging from Qing Shui's words, Madame Nye had made ample preparations. Just the few of them probably wouldn't be enough to fill the gaps between Madame Nye's teeth. Or you. I don't know how many trustworthy people are by Madame Nye's and the clan leader's side, but why did you run out like this? What do you want to do? You're alone and can't do anything, Jing Yu said bluntly as she raised her brows calmly. But Jing Yu's eyes reddened when she heard that, and she looked at Jing Yu with a pleading expression. I just want the clan leader to be safe and sound. Please save the clan leader. Jing Yu finally understood. This girl probably had other thoughts about the clan leader. With that thought, Jing Yu turned her gaze to Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen received Jing Yu's gaze and instantly understood what Jing Yu meant. He turned his head calmly with an indifferent expression in his eyes. We should go find Feng Ling, Xiaochen said, causing Jingyu to raise her brows. It's been a long time since I've seen Feng Yu, Jingyu replied with a smile. As expected of the person she had taken a fancy to, Jingyu really liked him. Were they so telepathic? The people outside should have left. Xiaochen stood up and walked out of the cave. He had Jingyu and the others wait in the cave while he went out for a stroll. When he came back, he called Jingyu and the others out. All right, they're gone, Xiaochen said and pulled the horse over. Interrogation Squad 3 and Squad 15 should be waiting for us up ahead. Let's go. Jingyu was the first to get on the horse. There was a serious look in her eyes. After she frowned, she seemed to have thought of something and frowned deeply. Look at the map. We're going to Nanjiang. Jingyu had Qinggu take out the map. When is your clan leader's wedding? Jingyu turned to look at Qingxue. Qingxue was startled when she heard Jingyu's to go to Nanjiang, but before she could react, she heard Jingyu's question. The wedding is in a month. Qingxue frowned. Madame Nye and the clan leader haven't fallen out. Madame Nye won't make a move before the wedding. I know. Jingyu nodded calmly and looked at Qingxue. But you're a variable. If you don't die, Madame Nye won't be at ease. What if Madame Nye gets anxious and makes a move in advance? Qingxue was stunned when she heard that. She looked at Jingyu uncertainly and asked, You mean, you want me to die? Yes, I want you to die. Jingyu nodded happily. She looked at Qingxue's, You're very smart, expression and smiled faintly. What should we do? We have to do it bit by bit. Chapter 2038. But right now, the most important thing's to find a woman with a figure similar to yours, Jingyu said seriously to Qingxue. What? Qingxue was even more stunned. What? Jingyu looked at Qingxue with a faint smile in her eyes. Do you really think I want you to die? Qingxue nodded silently. She almost wanted to say that if she died, she would definitely not hesitate to let the clan leader live. However, judging from Jingyu's words, it was obvious that she wanted her to find a substitute. Madame Nye is very shrewd. A substitute might not be able to fool her, Qingxue said after some thought. I don't expect to be able to fool her either. Jingyu raised her brows casually. It's fine as long as we can buy some time. Perhaps we can only fool her for a few days, but it's enough. Qingxue nodded slowly after hearing Jingyu's words. When they arrived at the intersection, they saw Interrogation Officer 3 and Interrogation Officer 15 waiting for them. Xiaochen went up to ask them, and after confirming that they had shaken them off, he let out a sigh of relief. We're going south now, to Nanjiang, Jingyu said slowly. Nanjiang isn't far from here. I know a small path, Qingxue said seriously. Okay. Jingyu responded. Then, she seemed to have thought of something and turned to Yan Chenyang. You've repaid the favor, so you don't need to participate in what happens next. This is the map. Take this road, and it'll be the way back. Jingyu asked Qinggu to hand over the map and banknotes. Then, she looked at Yan Chenyang seriously and said, Let's split up at the fork in the road ahead. Yan Chenyang probably hadn't expected that Jingyu would let him go so easily. Yan Chenyang looked at the situation in front of him and fell silent for a moment. He knew that Jingyu was telling the truth along the way. Yan Chenyang also knew that Jingyu and the others weren't ordinary people. He also knew that what Jingyu and the others were going to do wasn't something simple. It was best to leave now. I hope you eat this before you leave. Jingyu took out a pill and said to Yan Chenyang, I'm sorry, but you know too much. We have to be careful. Don't worry, the antidote will be given to you on time. Yan Chenyang looked at the black pill in Jingyu's hand. After a deep look, he calmly took the pill and swallowed it. He looked at Jingyu calmly and said, I understand what you mean. Thank you. Jingyu saw that Yan Chenyang was so cooperative and heaved a sigh of relief. If Yan Chenyang didn't cooperate, it would be a little troublesome. Jingyu, Xiaochen, and the others sent Yan Chenyang off. Standing at the intersection, Jingyu looked at Yan Chenyang's departing figure and nodded with satisfaction. The next step was to turn Miaojiang upside down. Jing Yu was looking forward to it. She was really familiar with this place. It took nearly 10 days to travel from Beijiang to Nanjiang. Only then did they reach the central city of Nanjiang. In Jing Yu's eyes, she really didn't know the difference between Nanjiang and Beijiang. Whether it was the clothes or the houses, they all looked the same. But why were the two territories so clearly divided? Chapter 2039. Just because there were two clan leaders? When Jing Yu's group arrived at the central city of southern border, the fake Qing Shui that Jing Yu and Qing Gu meticulously prepared was also delivered to Madame Nye. Madam, we caught that woman, but... In a certain exquisite attic in northern border, the Black Knights appeared with a person in a gunny sack. That person's entire body was burned, and there wasn't a single piece of undamaged flesh on her face. What's going on? Madame Nye's face was still as seductive and alluring as though time couldn't leave a mark on her face. When she saw the corpse in the gunny sack, her brows furrowed tightly. This is Qing Shui? Madame Nye slowly straightened her back and walked toward the corpse. This woman hid in the inn. We chased after her, but before we could do anything, the inn suddenly caught on fire. Qing Shui originally had the chance to rush out, but when she saw us blocking the entrance, she hid inside again. I didn't expect her to be burned alive just like that. Madame Nye listened to this person's words and looked at the burned corpse. Her eyes narrowed slightly as she raised her hand and called, "Bring me a knife." The small dagger was placed in Madame Nye's hand. She looked at the woman's wrist and narrowed her eyes. When she cut the woman's wrist bit by bit and saw the flesh exposed, she nodded in satisfaction and grabbed a small scorpion from somewhere. When she placed the scorpion on the flesh, the scorpion seemed to have encountered something terrifying and turned to run away. Madame Nye looked at this scene and a faint smile appeared in her eyes. Not bad. Madame Nye's lips curled up in delight. She stood up and said, "What a pity about this bloodline. Put the corpse away. It'll be useful." The men in black below bowed in response. I'm finally at ease. Madame Nye sighed before turning to walk to the other side and lay back down on the soft couch. Jing Yu could already guess a thing or two about what happened in the northern frontier. However, she didn't care about it at all because they were now at the edge of the central city. This place was incomparably lively. Jing Yu looked at the bustling streets. Compared to the desolation along the way, it was a huge contrast. So, where are we going to find Feng Ling now? Jing Yu frowned and asked in a conflicted tone. I don't know. Xiao Chen's answer was really fast. His answer was enough to dismiss Jing Yu. The corners of Jing Yu's mouth twitched. She wondered if they should put up a missing person notice or something. If Feng Ling saw it, she would probably come looking for them, right? Let's find a place to stay first, Xiao Chen said indifferently. If we find Feng Ling must be nearby. Okay. Jing Yu responded indifferently and followed Xiao Chen to find an inn. She had enough of the people walking on the streets with their navels and thighs exposed. Jing Yu thought that Miaojiang was probably a man's paradise. What are you thinking about? Xiao Chen looked at Jing Yu and asked with a frown. I realized that the men in Miaojiang all have good figures. Jing Yu was practically drooling. However, her words made Xiao Chen's face darken instantly. Chapter 2040. Before Jing Yu could do anything, she was pulled into Xiao Chen's embrace. Jing Yu exclaimed and stared at Xiao Chen. When she saw the unhappiness written all over Xiao Chen's handsome face, Jing Yu's lips twitched. I'm just looking. Jing Yu pouted and said, He's dressed like this, can I look? Jing Yu felt a deep sense of resentment. Xiao Chen stopped and stared at Jing Yu. You can only look at this king. Jing Yu looked at this possessive person and turned her head away in disgust. Let's go, we've reached the inn. Qing Gu looked at the two flirting with each other and quietly turned his head to look at the inn. In his heart, he was wondering how his wife was doing. The inns in the central city of Miaojiang were really good. Looking at the loft, Jing Yu nodded with satisfaction. There was a faint smile in her eyes. When she turned her head, She seemed to have thought of something and frowned slightly. She looked at Xiao Chen and asked, "How are we going to find Feng Yu if we stay here?" "I've already asked Xing San to find out." Xiao Chen responded and threw off his cloak. He sat on the chair and looked at Jing Yu seriously. "Now you can look." "What are you looking at?" Jing Yu was taken aback and asked curiously. "This king." Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes and said. Jing Yu looked at Xiao Chen and suddenly choked. This man was really so interesting. Jing Yu looked at Xiao Chen and the smile on her face widened. Then she strode over and threw herself into Xiao Chen's arms. Xiao Chen hugged Jing Yu's soft body and was very satisfied. Miaojiang's clothes are too inconvenient. It's like armor. Xiao Chen frowned unhappily. Really? I think it's pretty good. Jing Yu responded. It's not comfortable to hug. Xiao Chen answered seriously. Qinggu had just walked to the door when he heard the noise in the room. He sighed helplessly and raised his hand to his mouth and coughed slightly to remind Jing Yu and Xiao Chen in the room. Jing Yu and Xiao Chen tidied up their clothes and called them in. Not bad. You've learned how to knock on the door, Xiao Chen said calmly as he poured some water. Jing Yu lifted her leg and kicked Xiao Chen fiercely. Her face turned red instantly. Qinggu was also embarrassed. It seemed that Qinggu had done a lot of stupid things in the past. The number of times he barged in under such circumstances was simply too many. Jing Yu pursed her lips silently and turned her head to ask, "What's wrong? Did you find anything?" Jing Yu decisively chose to change the topic and didn't want to talk about it anymore. "Nothing, I just heard that the city will be very lively tonight. It seems that there will be a banquet or something like a bonfire festival. We should go and take a look. Maybe we can meet someone." Qinggu raised his head slightly and said, "I just heard someone talking outside. And I think it's good too." Jing Yu also nodded slowly. She seemed to have thought of something and raised her eyes slightly. What would this Miaojiang banquet look like? To be honest, Jing Yu was really looking forward to seeing the exotic customs of Miaojiang. Chapter 2041. Since it was a bonfire party, it naturally started at night. During the day, Jing Yu, Xiao Chen, and the others wandered around outside, wondering if they could find a few people. The scenery outside was pretty good. Looking at these interesting trinkets, Jing Yu thought of the two children in the Tokyo Imperial City. "Xiao Chen, don't you think these things are interesting?" Jing Yu's eyes were full of smiles. She picked up the trinkets from the stall and handed them to Xiao Chen. "Look, one is blue and one is purple. Give them to Little Potato and Little Watermelon." Xiao Chen looked at the trinkets in Jing Yu's hands and revealed a faint smile. He seemed to think that the trinkets were a good match. "The blue one is for Little Potato and the purple one is for Little Watermelon." "Why?" Jing Yu was slightly stunned when she heard Xiao Chen assign the colors. She looked at Xiao Chen strangely and asked, "What do you think?" "It's suitable." Xiao Chen frowned and thought for a moment. He probably couldn't think of a reason, so he nodded silently and said seriously, "But I'll listen to you." Jing Yu was speechless. Since it was Xiao Chen's idea, Jing Yu naturally agreed happily. On the street, Jing Yu held the trinkets in her hands and raised her eyebrows. She seemed to be thinking carefully. Looking at the people coming and going on the street, it was really lively. Jing Yu and Xiao Chen were both wearing masks, but their temperaments were extraordinary. Jing Yu and Xiao Chen attracted a lot of attention. "Why are you attracting so many bees and butterflies?" Jing Yu glared at Xiao Chen with disdain. Those gazes on Xiao Chen made Jing Yu very unhappy. Looking at those gazes, Jing Yu reached out and hugged Xiao Chen's arm domineeringly. "These women can't wait to pounce on you and swallow you alive." Jing Yu glared at those women unhappily, then looked up at Xiao Chen and said, "Don't worry. Don't blame me." Xiao Chen didn't even look at those women. He looked at Jing Yu and said seriously, "Pff." Jing Yu snorted in disdain. Just as she was about to say something to Jing Yu, she heard a commotion outside. Jing Yu frowned slightly and looked at the crowd that suddenly started to riot. Make way, Miss Mo is here." Amidst the exclamations, the crowd slowly parted to make a path. Jing Yu looked at the situation in front of her and frowned in confusion. Mo family? Jing Yu also retreated to the side curiously. She looked at the path made by the crowd and a very graceful figure walked out. She was so much bigger than a normal person. Look at that. Jing Yu's eyes instantly widened. When her gaze shifted to the woman's face, she was almost stunned. That face, her skin was really very white, but there were freckles on her cheeks. Moreover, what made Jing Yu the most speechless was that this woman had an extremely large mole at the corner of her eye. There was even hair on the mole. Chapter 2042. Jing Yu swallowed her saliva silently. God was indeed fair. After opening a door for you, he would also close a window. What a pity! What a pity! Jing Yu sighed deeply. She watched the woman walk forward step by step, swaying her slender waist. She looked extremely arrogant, as if she didn't feel uncomfortable with her appearance at all. She looked as if she didn't care about anyone else, and she was the most beautiful. Jing Yu sighed deeply. Where did your strong self-confidence come from? Ninth sister-in-law. Qing Gu tugged at Jing Yu and said, Let's go quickly. I'm about to throw up. Child, do you know how to talk? Jing Yu glared at Qing Gu and said seriously, Don't look at her face. Look elsewhere. Qing Ji's face darkened. Child? Ninth sister-in-law, what did you mean when you said, look elsewhere? With such a figure, it's really... Jing Yu swallowed her saliva silently and said, It's the same even if the lights are off. Qing Gu, have you considered marrying another woman? I think this girl is pretty good. Jing Yu looked as if she supported him, which made Qing Ji's eyes twitch. I'm leaving first. Qing Gu didn't hesitate and turned to leave. Jing Yu looked at Qing Gu and burst out laughing. She pulled Xiao Chen and was about to leave when someone suddenly called out to them. You guys, stop right there. This clear voice sounded, and the noisy street suddenly quieted down. Jing Yu, who was about to take a step, suddenly froze. Jing Yu looked around in confusion and then turned her head. She saw that the people who were originally standing in the middle of the road had stopped and were looking straight at Jing Yu and the others. Are you calling me? Jing Yu asked in confusion. Yes, I'm calling you guys. The freckled woman strode over. She was just walking, but why did Jing Yu feel that her breasts were so eye-catching? Cough, cough, cough. Jing Yu quietly retracted her gaze and looked at the woman in front of her strangely. She asked, Miss, what's the matter? What's the matter? The woman looked at Jing Yu coldly and said, How dare you laugh at me? I'm going to pull your tongue out. Wait. Jing Yu was stunned when she heard that, and she quickly shouted, Isn't there something wrong with this? When did I laugh at you? You're as beautiful as a flower and everyone loves you. How could I laugh at you? Jing Yu said seriously. However, after Jing Yu finished speaking, the way everyone looked at Jing Yu changed. Qing Gu looked at Jing Yu strangely and asked quietly, Ninth sister-in-law, when did you become blind? After hearing Jing Yu's words, the woman lowered her head shyly as if she had heard something very touching. However, after hearing Qing Ji's words, her expression changed again. I've been blind for a long time. Otherwise, how could I not have noticed that you're as beautiful as a flower? Jing Yu deliberately emphasized the word, flower. Chapter 2044. Jing Yu wasted so much time talking just for this invitation. Qing Gu didn't understand. How did Jing Yu know that this invitation was useful? Aren't you asking nonsense? Jing Yu and Xiao Chen had returned to the inn. When they heard Qing Ji's question, they suddenly frowned and looked at Qing Gu as if they were looking at a fool. Xiao Chen's eyes were originally filled with doubts, but when he heard Jing Yu's words and looked at Jing Yu's eyes, Xiao Chen silently turned his head with an unfathomable look. You see, Xiao Chen is smarter than you. Jing Yu said very disdainfully, You are indeed the man I like. You understand me? Jing Yu said with a smile and hugged Xiao Chen's hand happily. Xiao Chen looked at Jingyu silently and continued to hold his teacup without speaking. In this case, it was better not to speak. Otherwise, his image would be too degrading. Jingyu didn't know what Xiao Chen was thinking. She turned her head and looked at Qinggu seriously and said, "Do you know what we lack the most now?" Qinggu heard Jingyu's words and thought carefully. He asked cautiously, "People? Lack of helpers?" Jingyu nodded seriously and said, "Then let me ask you again. How do we get helpers?" This. Qinggu thought deeply for a moment and said quietly, "Find them?" "Okay, you go find them." Jingyu said calmly, "I just want to see how many helpers you can find. Go find them in the Miaojiang region." Qinggu heard Jingyu's words and suddenly lowered his head silently. "I said you are stupid, but you still don't admit it." Jingyu shook her head and said, "If we can find helpers in the shortest time possible, we need to find a backer who can be our shield and expose us at the same time. The Mo family is the best choice, but I didn't expect it to go so smoothly. This Mo Ruhua is really a talent," Jingyu said emotionally. "When did you have this idea?" When Xiao Chen heard Jingyu's words, he instantly thought of everything. He narrowed his eyes and asked Jingyu. It was probably the moment Mo Ruhua appeared. Jingyu lowered her eyes and said, "Didn't you hear the way the passers-by were talking about Mo Ruhua and their comments?" Everyone fell silent. They naturally heard the comments, but they were just watching the show and didn't pay much attention to it. That's why I took action. It was just an act. The few of you cooperated well. Jingyu nodded calmly. Xiao Chen, Qinggu, and the others silently turned their heads and didn't say anything. They couldn't help but admire Jingyu's acting skills. Everyone sat in the inn until the sky gradually darkened. Jingyu, Xiao Chen, and the others tidied up their clothes and rested for a while. Then, they once again stepped onto the streets. Since it was a banquet, there was naturally a location. After Jingyu and the others asked for the location, they weren't in a hurry and strolled towards the destination. However, Chapter 2045. Jingyu turned to look at Qin Shui and asked with a frown, "Are you sure it won't be a problem to bring Qin Shui out?" Xiao Chen glanced at Qin Shui and replied calmly, "It's fine. It's fine even if Madame Nie's people really come looking for us." "All right." Jingyu lowered her head and glanced at Qin Shui before continuing to walk forward. She overheard the conversation behind her. "Miss Qin Shui, what do you think is the difference between Nanjiang and Beijiang?" Qinggu and Qin Shui were walking together. Qinggu looked at Qin Shui curiously and asked. Qin Ji's gaze swept across the eyes of the people on the street. People in Beijiang are murderous by nature. Qin Shui was surprised to hear Qin Ji's question. She turned to him and said, "Nanjiang has a large population, but they don't like to kill. Beijiang has a small population, but they are murderous by nature." "Is that so?" Qinggu was taken aback by Qin Shui's words. In Beijiang, whether it's the inns or the people walking around, they all have goo on them. However, there are laws in Nanjiang. I've been to Nanjiang many times, and I like Nanjiang a lot, but I'm from Beijiang. Qin Shui's eyes seemed to be filled with deep attachment as she spoke. She slowly lowered her head and said, "Once, when the patriarch was drunk, he looked at me very seriously and asked me, 'Why is Miaojiang divided into north and south?' He said he really wanted to come to Nanjiang and take a look." Qin Shui's eyes were filled with warmth as she said, "I also really wanted to come and take a look with him. Now that you mention it, I really want to meet your Lord Clan leader." Jingyu turned around and smiled faintly at Qin Shui. "Since you're able to come to the northern borderline, do you think the day you and your clan leader will be far off?" Jingyu's pitch-black eyes were so bright that Qin Shui's eyes lit up in surprise when she saw Jingyu's appearance. The way she looked at Jingyu instantly became incomparably gentle. She responded softly and slowly lowered her head with a smile. When Xiao Chen and Jingyu arrived, the huge square was already packed with people. "Holy shit, is this a bonfire?" Jingyu looked at the huge brazier in the middle of the square and her eyes widened in surprise. Why did Jingyu have a feeling that she was going to cook? This is the custom of Miaojiang. Qing Shui, who was beside him, explained patiently, the bonfire party is held every once in a while. Or it's a small gathering of ordinary families. There will also be a bonfire. It's just not as grand as this. Qing Shui raised her head to look at the bonfire and said to Jing Yu and the others. So that's how it is. Jing Yu nodded in understanding when she heard that. Just as Jing Yu was still looking at the bonfire, Qing Gu suddenly said, the Mo clan is over there. Jing Yu turned her head and saw the commotion caused by Mo Rua's appearance. Her lips twitched silently and she frowned in confusion. No wonder you could see her at a glance. Jing Yu sighed deeply. Qing Gu couldn't bear to look at her and turned his head away. Jing Yu took the invitation and walked towards the Mo clan. When Jing Yu said that she was Mo Ruhua's friend, the guard's gaze was strange. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.